Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. If you enjoyed today's content, please click like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Please share the video to your friends and family if you think this is something they would be interested in. For today's video, we're going to talk about phrasal verbs. In English, there are so many phrasal verbs and phrasal verb combinations that it is confusing to most learners. But I'm going to give you some of the more common ones so that you can use them in everyday conversation. A phrasal verb is just a verb and a particle. So any verb that you can think of plus a particle. Now particles are usually prepositions like in, on, at, up, down, off, and so on and so on. What's confusing about phrasal verbs is that sometimes learners don't know which particle you're going to use. But since phrasal verbs have specific meanings, all you need to do is to memorize the exact phrasal verb so that you can use it. Let's start with a very simple one. Take off. So take is our verb and our particle is off. Usually, we use take off when we're talking about planes, right? But as you can see, there are several meanings for the phrasal verb take off. And this is where most people get confused because they don't know whether this is the correct phrasal verb to use or should they use something else. Another confusing part about phrasal verbs is whether we can separate them or not. Let's take a look at separable ones first. A phrasal verb is separable when you can put a noun or noun phrase or a pronoun between the verb and the particle. For example, take blank off. Take your shoes off. Take them off. This way, we are separating the verb and the particle, and we are including our object in between the verb and the particle. Of course, you can also say take off your shoes. However, we cannot use the pronoun in this case because it will sound very strange. Take off it, take off them. The meaning does not coincide with the format of your sentence. But if we take a look at non-separable phrasal verbs, you will see we are using the same phrasal verb take off, but the meaning now is different from the previous example because the previous example means to remove, while this phrasal verb means to depart or to leave. Knowing whether a phrasal verb is separable or not is a challenge for many learners. I encourage you to memorize the meaning of phrasal verbs, use it in the context of your sentence, and even if you make a mistake, that's fine. You just need to keep practicing, keep getting better, and keep using these phrasal verbs so that you will be able to use them correctly in the future. Now that we know what phrasal verbs are all about, I'm going to give you 3 phrasal verbs that are commonly misused because they use the same verb, fill, but they have different particles, up, out, and in. The first one is fill up. Fill up is usually used when we talk about putting something in a container, a glass, or something like that. Like fill up your car with gasoline or fill up my glass with whiskey. At the supermarket, you can also say, I filled my cart up with groceries. Can we also use this when we are talking about documents? Do we say, please fill up this document? Is that correct? Actually, no, because this is what you have to use. Fill out. You fill out a document. You fill out a subscription. You fill out necessary information. So the usual use for fill up is for liquids and other things, but you use fill out when you want to talk about documents. The last one that I'm going to talk about today is fill in, and I'm sure you've heard this before. When you take a test, normally you have a part of the test that says fill in the blank with the correct answer. So one meaning of fill in is to add information to complete something like a form or a sentence or something like that. But there are many uses of fill in, and normally we use fill in when we want to cover a hole or a tear with additional material so that you can hide the damage. Another common use for fill in is to substitute. So if a teacher is absent, I can fill in for that teacher, which means I will take the place of that teacher. Now that you know the differences between fill up, fill out, and fill in, I hope that you will be able to use them confidently next time. So that's it for today's video. Next week, I'm not going to talk about grammar, I'm not going to talk about learning English, but because it's Halloween, I'm going to give you something special. So you better be ready. So I'll see you next time. Thank you very much, and have a good day ahead.